Closure of workplaces will take effect from next Tuesday. This will ensure that most of our workforce stays at home and limits their physical interaction to as few people as possible. Second, we will also move to full home-based learning in our schools and institutes of higher learning. We started with 1 day of home-based learning this week. This has gone smoothly, with some teething issues being resolved. The Ministry of Education will work with the schools to implement full home-based learning starting next Wednesday. All preschool and student care centers will also be closed, but they will provide limited services for children of parents who have to continue working and are unable to make alternative care arrangements. Third, we will tighten restrictions on movements and gatherings of people. It boils down to three things. First, stay at home as much as possible. Second, avoid socializing with others beyond your own household. Gatherings should be confined to your household. Avoid visiting even your extended families who are not staying with you, especially if they are elderly or vulnerable. Third, go out only to do essential things. For work, if you are in essential services or in a key economic sector. To buy food at markets, or to take out from restaurants and hawker centers, or to exercise in the neighborhood park, keeping a safe distance from others. The spirit of these measures is to get all of us to minimize physical contact. If we don't go out, if we avoid contact with others, then the virus won't be able to spread. It's as simple as that.
Air travel affected by the COVID-19 outbreak. For the first 2 weeks of February, numbers were down by more than 25% compared to the same time last year. And part of this drop is due to a more than 85% decline of the number of people traveling between Singapore and China. Changi Airport Group says the impact has been amplified by high volumes of travel during last year's Chinese New Year, which was in February. And there's also been a 90% drop in the number of weekly flights to China. And as of 14th of February, there were about 40 weekly flights to fewer than 10 Chinese cities compared to 400 weekly services to 36 destinations previously. And it was quite the opposite in January, though. The airport handled nearly 6 million passengers, more than 5% up on January 2019. And there were almost 33,500 landings and takeoffs, a rise of just over 2%. But air freight declined 8.4% to 157,000 tons for the month, and January's figures were partially affected by Chinese New Year, which fell this year on the 20th.
2 in 3 F&B businesses surveyed by the Restaurant Association of Singapore expect business to be hit hard by COVID-19. Now, they expect a 50 to 70% loss of revenue over the next 3 months. On top of the mind are rental concerns, a worry also shared by retailers. Gwyneth Cho tells us more.
The possibility that we may be in for the long haul in this COVID-19 outbreak has been enough to make some restaurant owners lose their appetite. More than 300 members of the Restaurant Association of Singapore, or RAS, are worried business will fall by between half and 2/3 between March and May. It's the largest association for food and beverage businesses here and represents close to 700 brands.
Coronavirus are spreading throughout the world. In Singapore, as the virus continues to spread, it also brings the great challenges to people's lives and local economy. Today, please follow our camera into Singapore's local supermarkets and shopping malls, as well as some local restaurants. Let us feel the impact of the virus on the local business in Singapore. On April 7, the Singapore government requires the home office work be implemented and the non-essential service shop and workplace must be closed. Through the camera, we have lectured that the number of people on the road has become fewer and the cities has become quiet. If people don't follow these rules, they will facing severe fires and wardens. Nowadays, we can clearly see that the coronavirus still has a huge negative impact on Singapore. From the tourism industry to the hotel industry, food processing industry, related industry, and transportation industry, it has been subjected to the huge challenges and pressures.
Hello teacher, I'm Zhengda Li. I will do some presentation about the impact of the coronavirus restrictions on the Singapore business. From the before video and my partner's presentation, you can know the Singapore Prime Minister Lee announced a new policies about locking down the cities for 1 month. And the people must stay at home and not go to some workplace. And they can only use the service shops and buy some food from the food centers. And if some people not follow these policies, they will pay the severe fines and warnings. But we can also see some people running on the street and do some exercise on the road, and a little people will not wear the masks, and some restaurants not follow the rules of eat-in service. So you can see my PowerPoint from the next slide, and I will do some analysis. So teacher, you can see the conclusion of the impact of the coronavirus restrictions on the Singapore government. From the first slide, you can see that the restriction of the individual business and the lifestyle. So first, I will talk about the Singapore citizens. Most of them are working in the banks or some service industry, so they need to online working and stay at home. It will lead some problems, such as the limitation of the office efficiency and qualities. And most of big companies has the face-to-face meeting, but because of the coronavirus, they cannot exchange the information quickly and easily. Most the information will be delayed and they will limited by the communication. Next, I will talk the Singapore students. Like me, most students should have online course and talk with their teacher online and listen their teacher speakings and doing their homework by online. So most of them don't have school activities, and they will feel boring and difficulty concentrate on their lessons. Most of students will have no efficiency work, and it is difficult to exchange information with their teachers. And the student lifestyle also have changed. Most of them need to cook in the home or eat some takeout on the Grab. And we don't have the social activities and we need to wear the masks and follow the Singapore government policies to save our life. Next, I will talk about the restrictions of the collective business. You know, Singapore have many companies, and most of them are service industries. The first problem is the aviation industries. They don't have the flight and face serious challenges, so they are not having the new employees. And the second is the tourist industry. They also suffered badly hit. Most of the restaurants were worse than it used to be. And the shopping mall, we cannot see the people, and most of people stay at home. So the rent is also a problem. But I know the Singapore government provide rent for the renters and about almost $50 billion for them. The hotel industry also face the problems. They don't have the consumers, and the operation of a hotel also costs many money. And some companies begin to cut the salaries and let off the employees too. In the end, we know the individual problems and the collective problems of the coronavirus. So I want to say some solutions about this. First, I think citizens need to wear masks and clean their hands and stay at home. The 3 steps is very important. And I also think we can buy supplies and food by using some apps like the Taobao, Lazada, Grabs. And students need to focus on our lessons and watch the video again and again. It can improve our study. And I also think some employees who stay at home, they need to study some IT knowledges and try their best earn money according to the internet. And in addition, the Singapore government also needed to study the Chinese policies. The Chinese solve the coronavirus is very united and efficiency. Now you can see the Chinese people can going out and did their works and do some social activities in China. So in the end, I think the Singapore citizens not do some financial investment, and they need to wait for the new business and save their money to survival. And I think the coronavirus will be stopped in the future. This is my presentation.